We're starting this deep dive with some really tough news that definitely sent a shockwave through the music world. Michael Eugene Archer, who we all knew as DAngelo, the R&B and soul singer, has passed away at just 51. It was pancreatic cancer.
Such a loss. Just, yeah, a huge loss.
It really is. And his family, in their statement, they talked about the legacy of extraordinarily moving music he left. They asked fans, to celebrate his gift of song. But for this deep dive, what we really want to understand, why we've gathered all these sources, the career details, the tributes from other artists, is that one word you always hear: pioneer. We need to unpack why. Why is he called a pioneer? How did he, like Beyoncé said, actually change and transform rhythm and blues forever?
Yeah, and it's so important to frame that influence right from the start. DAngelo wasn't just, following trends. He really did carve out something new. He's pretty much universally seen as the pioneer of neo-soul. But just calling it a mix of R&B, hip-hop, and jazz, well, that kind of misses the real technical shift he brought about.
Okay, so what was that shift?
Well, what DAngelo did, particularly with his take on neo-soul, it was almost like a sonic rebellion. He was pushing back against that super polished, very quantized, heavily synthesized R&B sound, the one that was absolutely dominant in the mid-90s.
Right, very digital sounding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he deliberately looked backwards to classic soul, to funk. He used live instruments, raw analog recording. There was this deep, spiritual, improvisational feel. You could say he was the guy who kind of dragged R&B away from the drum machines and back into the studio with a live band.
That choice being analog and raw when digital was king, that seems like the first really key thing for you, the listener, to grasp here. And our sources really highlight this. We've got his whole career arc, but also these really emotional endorsements from people like Lauryn Hill, Nile Rogers, Missy Elliott, all talking about how DAngelo basically built the foundation for the music they made.
Yeah, that architectural influence is undeniable.
Okay, so let's go back. His roots, Richmond, Virginia. He was the son of a Pentecostal minister. That seems pretty foundational, right? That gospel core you hear in his voice, in the music itself.
Absolutely. That spiritual background definitely shaped his voice, his delivery, but the instrumental talent, that was something else entirely. Our sources confirm he taught himself piano when he was just 3 years old. Astonishing.
3? Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't just messing around. That early mastery meant he was thinking like a composer, an arranger, right from the start, not just a singer.
And how did he go from that to getting noticed? It seems like a pretty traditional path, but fast.
It was. He played in local groups, honing his craft. Great names, too, like Intelligent, Deadly, but Unique, IDU, and Michael Archer, and Precise.
Yeah, great names.
But the real classic breakthrough moment, that happened in New York at the Apollo.
The Apollo Theater's amateur night.
Exactly. And he didn't just win once. He won 3 weeks in a row.
3 weeks straight.
Yep. And doing that, that's monumental. It gets you serious industry attention. He landed a publishing deal with EMI when he was just 18.
18. Incredible. And that leads right to the debut album in 1995, Brown Sugar. Thinking about the mid-90s sound, you mentioned the synths, maybe P. Diddy's influence, that clean production. Brown Sugar must have sounded completely different.
Oh, completely. It just dropped in with this warmth, this mellow quality.
Mellow, yeah, that's a good word.
It had these sticky sort of slow groove bass lines, a really laid back, almost hazy production. You could hear Marvin Gaye, you could hear Prince, but it was filtered through that 90s hip-hop feel. It sounds simple on the surface, but technically, it's brilliant.
And it worked commercially right away.
Immediately. The song Lady, that was massive. Hit number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 96. Got him Grammy nominations straight off the bat. So he proved right then that you could have that classic R&B integrity, that musicianship, and still top the charts. He wasn't just some niche artist.
Okay, so Brown Sugar puts him on the map. But then comes the year 2000 and the album Voodoo. This feels like the moment he transitions from star to, well, icon.
Definitely. Voodoo was a whole different animal.
It topped the U.S. charts, so commercially successful again. But critically, it felt like a whole other level. More complex, maybe messier, even a bit abstract sometimes.
And that critical reception is so key to understanding his legacy. Here's the detail that really hammers it home for you. Rolling Stone's list of the greatest albums ever made.
Yeah.
They put Voodoo at number 28.
Wow, okay, 28?
And get this. That's one spot above the Beatles' White Album.
Whoa, above the White Album. Okay, that's that says a lot.
It's immense, right? It makes you stop and think, What did critics and musicians hear in Voodoo
Yeah.
that put it in that kind of legendary company? It wasn't just good. It was, like you said, history-making.
So what was it? What was the magic in Voodoo?
I think it comes down to the sheer technical risk he took. Voodoo was largely created with his incredible collective, the Soulquarians. Amir Questlove Thompson from The Roots was central to that.
Right, Questlove.
And Questlove famously described the drumming style on that album as drunk drumming. They were deliberately playing off the grid, unquantized, not locked perfectly to the beat like everything else at the time.
Okay, so intentionally imperfect, in a way.
Exactly. Intentionally human, maybe. It gave the music this incredibly complex, thick, slightly lagging, almost psychedelic feel. Like it was breathing.
Like a living thing?
Yeah. It sounds heavy, sometimes dark. And it demanded immense discipline from all the musicians to hold that kind of groove together. It was a huge departure from the smoother Brown Sugar, showing he wasn't afraid to challenge his audience. He was chasing something artistically true.
And if the album was the masterpiece, the single untitled How Does It Feel became this huge cultural moment. The video.
Oh, the video, yeah. Still talked about.
That single shot, him appearing naked, looking so vulnerable but also incredibly powerful, it instantly made him this massive cultural figure, a sex symbol, which apparently he wasn't entirely comfortable with. But it definitely defined the look, the feel of that whole neo-soul era visually.
It did. But what's fascinating is that genius, that raw talent. It was there way before the fame.
Yeah.
Nile Rogers tells this great story
Oh, yeah.
about meeting DAngelo really early on. He heard these raw tapes, just DAngelo and maybe basic tracks, and Rogers told him, this is perfect, just put it out like this.
Wow.
Years later, Rogers hears the finished stuff, the genius on the radio, and suddenly realizes he still has that original cassette tape somewhere. That pure, raw quality was just him from day one.
But that purity. Yeah, it makes the next part of his story feel even more, well, poignant, because after that explosion with Voodoo, the fame, the attention, things got difficult.
Yeah, we have to talk about the challenges. That immense success, it came with a heavy weight.
The pressure of being that unwilling sex symbol, maybe, and how do you follow up an album like Voodoo?
Exactly, and the decade after Voodoo, it was tough. A long period of public silence, really. Our sources point to significant struggles with alcoholism during that time. It really impacted his ability to create. And then there was the near-fatal car crash in 2005.
Right, that accident.
It all added up.
And that decade of silence, it just built this huge mythology around him, didn't it? Fans were desperate. Would he ever release music again?
Absolutely. Which made his return in 2014, a full 14 years after Voodoo, feel like this monumental, almost unbelievable event.
Black Messiah.
Black Messiah.
Yeah.
The gravity, when that album finally dropped, you can't really overstate it. It had been rumored for so long. But the timing, the context of its release, that's what gives it so much power.
What was the context?
He didn't finish it in isolation. He finished Black Messiah directly reacting to what was happening in the U.S. at the time, the national unrest, the protests. Specifically, he finalized it after watching the protests around the failure to indict police officers and the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner, unarmed black men.
Okay, so this wasn't just him returning to music. It was him returning with something to say about the times.
Precisely. It wasn't just an R&B album. It was social commentary woven into the music.
And did the sound reflect that urgency? How did it differ from Voodoo or Brown Sugar?
Oh, definitely. It felt darker, angrier even, more aggressive than his previous work. Brown Sugar was smooth, Voodoo was thick and swampy. Black Messiah felt spiritually urgent, defiant.
Lyrically, too.
Explicitly, lyrics about protest, injustice, revolution. It felt like he was connecting the whole long, deep history of Black American music right to that present moment. It wasn't background music. It demanded your attention.
And that artistic choice, that integrity, it clearly resonated.
It did. Black Messiah won the Grammy for Best R&B Album in 2016. It proved the genius hadn't just come back. It had evolved. It felt necessary, vital.
Still relevant after all that time away.
And he didn't stop there. He kept working, collaborated with DJ Premier on Devil's Pie. And reports say at the time he passed, he was actively working on what would have been his fourth album, again with Raphael Saadiq.
Always pushing. That pioneering spirit never really left him.
Seems that way. Ceaseless is a good word for it.
So let's bring it all together. Thinking about his legacy, listening to what his peers said, it really crystallizes his achievement. You mentioned Beyoncé calling him the pioneer, the one who changed and transformed rhythm and blues forever. That credits him with basically shaping the landscape for artists like her.
Huge praise. But for me, the tribute that really digs deep, the one we found in our sources that offers maybe the most profound insight, is from Lauryn Hill.
What did she say?
She looked beyond just the music. She talked about his social role. She said D'Angelo imagined a unity of strength and sensitivity in black manhood to a generation that only saw itself as having to be one or the other.
Wow, a unity of strength and sensitivity. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Isn't it? It suggests his music wasn't just fusing genres like R&B and hip-hop and jazz. It was fusing these complex cultural ideas, these emotional states.
Like giving permission for black men, maybe all men, to express both power and vulnerability through art.
Exactly. That ability to hold both, strength and sensitivity, in one artistic voice.
Yeah.
And that clearly resonated across the board.
Yeah, we saw tributes pour in. Missy Elliott, Jill Scott saying she loved and admired his gift. Even younger artists like Doja Cat calling him a true voice of soul.
And Tyler, the Creator, who flat out said D'Angelo shaped his musical DNA.
Yeah.
That tells you something. He wasn't just a 90s, 2000s figure. He's foundational to modern music, period.
So looking back at the whole arc, the child prodigy, teaching himself piano at 3, winning the Apollo 3 times, the reluctant icon after Untitled, and then emerging again with the politically charged Black Messiah. It's just an incredible artistic journey.
Truly remarkable.
His family asked fans to celebrate the gift of song he left. And as you listen, we really encourage you to think about that gift, especially that idea from Lauryn Hill, the strength and sensitivity he brought together. Think about how that legacy might still be echoing in the music you hear today, whether it's R&B, hip-hop, soul, even pop.
Yeah.
And that actually leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe mull over after this deep dive. D'Angelo managed this incredible thing. He merged jazz sophistication, that deep hip-hop, the soulfulness of R&B, creating music that was both spiritually profound and commercially massive.
Right. That's the tightrope.
Exactly. So the question is, how does an artist maintain that kind of deep, almost spiritual integrity that focus on raw, analog truth, while also navigating the pressures and demands of mass commercial success? What stands out to you about that really delicate, difficult balance he somehow struck?